Okay, I'm here at DreamHack Winter, but when everyone sees this it'll be a bit later. I'm with cArn, so tjena.
Tjena, läget?
Okay. So we're going to kind of do one of these career interviews where we just pick out some interesting moments or things I always want to know but never got a chance to do. So I think the place I want to start is, I actually used to work a long time ago, people won't know this, for this company called Gamers.nu.
I remember.
And just around the time when I left this site was when they decided, like, oh, as a publicity stunt, we'll get our own team and we'll send them to events and we'll see if they can get good. And so they announced, like, they did like a promo thing, like, here's some like outlines of the faces, who will it be? And everyone was guessing, like, oh, big name players. And then when the team was announced, everyone was sort of like,
disappointed?
Who? Like, they knew cArn and DSM from experience, but then some of the other names, they were like, I have no idea who this is.
Mouz and Skipper, I think.
Yeah, and so the problem with this team was, you had a really good people behind you in the sense of the team wasn't so known, but you got to go to these events, so you got to go to CPLs, even when someone like the third best Swedish team wouldn't go to a CPL, at the time, because it's really hard to get money. And so when you didn't have such good placings then, like the early part of your career was kind of like disappointing, you can say. So what would you say about this period of time? Like, what did you learn from it? Was it difficult to go all the way there to a CPL and come like 25th or whatever?
Of course. I think Gamers.nu was one of many teams. I wouldn't say I was a clan jumper back then, but that's just how it went. How it went. Some people lost motivation. You started to fight with each other. You were young. You named that we went to CPL, but we actually qualified there. We went to Game Gun. I think this was 2004. At that point, this was the latest stage of Gamers.nu. This was with Calippo, another Swedish player. We qualified, we won the finals there from the lower bracket against Destination Skyline, a Finnish team. And we went over there losing to 3D in overtime. They have like Steel, Miller, and those guys back in the classic days. But I don't know, I don't think that I was always like walking up in the, climbing the ladder, always ending up in better constellation of groups of teams. So yeah, maybe some people were a bit envious that we got this sponsorship, but looking back at it, it wasn't like the best sponsorship on the planet. We had to sometimes take part of our prize money into the travels, and obviously no salaries. They took a big chunk back when we won. Basically, they want the money they invested back. So I think it was a great publicity stunt, as you just mentioned. For me, it was a great way to get a bit more international. Playing in XP was the time I had my first international experience, going to the CXG, Cyber X Games qualifier. This was in 2003. Played against the team, the Titans, the Danish team. They were really good back then. Drudley, I think KK, Wimp even, back in the days. Played second there in Greece, won the money. We actually got the money and we could actually take the decision to keep it. We played with Digital. He wanted like to take this money, go to Thailand instead. We're like, no guys, we want to go to Las Vegas, sounds cool. I wasn't 21 back then, so that kind of sucked. We went there, the event got cancelled, but they kind of transformed it from a regular tournament structure, groups, playoffs, into some kind of show matches, $10,000 on stake, but obviously those money was never paid. Another loss for me, but another experience for me as well. So I don't know, it was exciting times. Thinking back at it now, probably, what is it, 8 years back? A lot of fun memories and no regrets really. Obviously the terms and the conditions were not that good, but I don't think we deserved it. But for us it was really useful and was like a catalyst going into the later stage or the mid-term of my long career, I guess.
The guys who were the famous Swedish players before you, so the Heaton, Potty, all the names people still know, because of when they started their careers, they were kind of just always on top. It's like they never really had to climb up. They were just like number one from almost the first tournaments. And so these guys were kind of like above you guys. And you had these early, you can call them teething problems, I guess, where you're going through teams and you're getting gradually better and better. And you have this thing where you have to become good in Sweden. So maybe you get an upset there, but then it's a lot different to go to a national tournament and play all these teams.
These days sometimes as well, I semi-pros. A team like Big Grip or Lions, they're always a bit behind SK, NIP and fnatic in Sweden, and they will only be sent to so many events, mostly European events. And whenever there is a problem in SK, NIP or fnatic, replacing a player, you take the best player from Lions before you took the best player from Big Grip. So yeah, I guess I was in those kind of teams, but I never really had the intentions to play for SK. I thought that me and DSN, I don't know, I didn't have this very planned out, but I think inside me I knew that we will get there eventually anyway. But for me, climbing to those best teams quick, I think that was almost impossible. If you look back at those teams, mainly they were based out of Stockholm or Gothenburg. Those teams, Game Online, for example, they have like early gaming cafes, yeah, or SK, a Stockholm-based team. I began to become the best in my school, the best in my city, the best in my province, and then eventually got the chance to play for the best team in Sweden, fnatic 2006. Yeah, so I don't know really. I didn't really thought about when you are in that seat. I think we just tried to just beat them, and we did sometimes actually. First time officially internationally, I think that was Rikshack in 2005 when I was kind of retired. Came back with DSN in the mixed team called Schoolboys. Who else was in the team? Red, Snydan, and Goodfella in DSN, and we managed to beat NIP. Then playing with Heaton, I think. Wilden,
Spawn,
Fisker maybe, and Potty was on the bench at that point. This was 2005.
Hyper, I think it's Fisker.
Yeah, maybe it was Hyper actually. He was supposed to be the star coming from Eyeballers. He was a great player obviously, but I think he lost it there somewhere. He was a bit like me, I guess, playing Eyeballers. That was his way to go, sticking to those guys. It was there he could make the impact being one of the best players in the world. And then he took the step into the big guys team, I guess, SK, NIP. But yeah.
So in terms of this like progression though, do you think that, I mean, what I was basically trying to get at is in the early days, people could just be like number one immediately, whereas it seems like in the later period, and you got to see it yourself, you kind of have to lose at each stage, and then like maybe you learn something from that to be able to get to the next one. Do you kind of see this as like the progression of a CS career?
Of course. One thing I think is really to point out, and people will point out the same in 10 years or 20 years, looking back at 2003, looking back at those years, there were only so many professional teams, even if they maybe weren't as professional as they are right now with salaries and being sent everywhere, but there was only so many teams from Europe that was able, like 4Kings maybe as well, but going to CPL and winning it. Being a European, I think that was kind of easy. You always ended up in the final playing against, was it X3 or 3D? Sure. But realistically, I think many of the teams in Sweden or in the rest of Europe, including Germany, could have went there and made huge impact as well. It was all about money, that's my point here. There was only so many professional teams. So of course it was easy for SK to be dominant in 2003, like the best team in the history. Great team, great players, I'm not saying, but it's a completely different story back then. Less professional teams. It was much easier to just grab people from other teams, no contract whatsoever basically. I'm not saying they were bad, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying the competition is always increasing. The team 2012 in fnatic, I'm sure they will easily beat the team we had in 2009, but I think it's more impressive being dominant today, because there are more teams that are able to travel, to go to those events. And esport in general is more professional and established these days. So it was easy back in the days to just go and win a tournament, get the confidence, get one sponsor, one of many few, and then it was easy to just rule the world for a certain period.
DSN told me a strange story about the formation of the fnatic lineup of 2006, and he said something along the lines of, since there was Forest and Tentpole coming in from Big Rip, when they were discussing, who we were going to get in this team, they wanted to have IsKall, who was their old leader from this team, but DSN said, no, let's get cArn instead, because he'd played with you, obviously. Was it really ever like up in the air as to whether you would be in this fnatic team, or like how quickly was it decided like these are the guys that we're definitely going to play with?
No, I think my friend Holly, DSN, he had big say in this. He was obviously the founder, the guy putting the teams together. So yeah, maybe Forest and Temple aired this opinion. Let's get IsKall, we used him, we were kind of young. Forest at that point, maybe 16. Temple a few years older. So they felt comfortable with IsKall. IsKall was, by the way, a player I used to play with as well in Big Rip in 2004, going to CPL. Fourth place, losing to... what's that?
Maybe?
No.
Eyeballs?
Yeah, we lost to NOA, but then we lost to this another American team, like Gamer Company, on Mill.
Rival guys, yeah.
Rivals, maybe they were called. Okay, where were we? So yeah, I think it was more like, it was a bit shaky for me whether I will do the small comeback. I was very like disorientated in my life at that point. All my friends went to university. I was 19, just graduated. Like what do you want to do with your life? I played CS for 8 years already at that point. Didn't really have my international breakthrough. I went to some international event, won some international events, but then I got this offer. It was not like an awesome offer. I obviously had a fixed salary at my job in Sweden at that point, working like part-time-ish. or even full-time. But going to Fnatic was like just taking that chance, a final chance to make impact in this game, because I loved it so much. I still played it. I still was kind of good, I suppose, winning Riksack in 2005. But I didn't practice as much back then. I think I lacked a lot of performance in 2006. And then personally, I feel that I peaked in 2007. If they would have been better off with IsKall, I don't think so, because he was a few years older, so he was on the verge to retire, where I was available, living with my parents. I had all the chances in the world to travel, whereas he might be a bit more committed to the like a proper Swedish life, so to speak.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, the interesting thing is, like I was mentioning before about like these gradual like hurdles you have to jump to get to the top. Mm-hmm. It seems like your career really did go like that, like one step at a time. Because then when you get into Fnatic in 2006, you go to all the big major tournaments and you're getting like top 3 placings, but you're never winning them until the end of the year.
Yeah, right.
And so, what do you think happened to the team during that year? Because it was one of the busiest years ever for like all these tournaments to attend. What did you finally figure out that allowed you to win at the end that you didn't have before?
I think we just became good enough, practiced enough, and reached that point and learned from the mistakes we did early on. And I think in the latter part of the year we invested much more time than we did in the early part of 2006. I think in Fnatic, even today, in the other teams we have, like League of Legends, we're all about sending our teams. We're not like Korean style, sitting and practicing 12 hours every day for 4 weeks and going to a tournament. We feel that if you are confident about the match, about playing a match, that is like having that confidence is contra having the practice is much more worthwhile. And I think we reached consistency and stability maybe end of summer. And I played poor pretty much until that, because I think I was a bit behind because I had like a small retirement in 2005. But then we felt like, oh my god, guys, we got 2 big tournaments coming up, WSVG finals, which when I look back at it, I think we should really have won it. We lost against 3D, Train, stupid rounds, Volcano acing us. One of many stupid match we lost on Train, by the way. Later on that map became D Fnatic, but at that point it was kind of tricky for us. And then CPL facing MIM with Element in the finals. One of the greatest wins in my career. It was really at that point I felt like from this day on we will be the best team for many years to come. I feel like with this kind of group of people. But at that very point, pretty much the same day, we knew that we're going to lose 10 pole as well. So one of many changes we went through. But I think Fnatic, more than any other team, we were really good in adapting to the present, getting a new player in, welcoming him, building a new team around him, new chemistry, and also strategy, because that's changed progressively. 2009, I know a lot of people think that we played a very easy style tactics, but I think simplicity is the key, a bit like Apple-ish, their kind of motto. In that case, we had really good players, okay, sitting down and talking, how do we play? Okay, let's make it easy for the best players. People can say it's simple, but it's also kind of smart. If you just figure out, you identify yourself, and I think we were better than anyone else to do that throughout all those years. Obviously, we weren't winning all the major titles, such as the team, the Poles, but we were almost always there among the medals for many years, and that's the thing I'm most proud about, that we always were able to adapt to the present.
Like you said, the interesting thing was when you finally broke through, you win this big event, like literally you already know before you even win it, 10 poles leaving. Yeah. And so it's like we got this team together, we've got to this level, and now we have to adapt to a new guy. Yeah. And then obviously this had to happen a few times through your career. When you would make these changes, other teams, it can be so up and down when they bring someone new, and they might bring in a better player, like SK can bring in Trace, and then they can be worse.
No, I know.
And so what is like the founding... Did you always have did you and DSN and the core always have a certain approach to CS that stayed the same in all the teams? Was there some philosophy behind it?
I think the mindset of the people. You mentioned core, I would actually include Forrest in that. Oh, sure. And it's not in bad respect of the other teammates, but I think we were a bit like the core. We were the team sticking together from 2006 to 2009. We had the same mindset. We loved the travels, we loved to play, and we had a lot of fun. We were like the most childish people you ever meet, probably. But yeah, I think we made it easy for the players that came in, because for me, even until 2012, I didn't play for anything else but having fun, as well as winning, having the glorious. Of course, that's the best of it. But if you don't have fun, and I think that's the mindset, the kind of background in Fnatic, everything starts with a passion, having fun. And I think some of our sponsors, I know this afterwards, of course, but they were like, when we spoke to those marketing people, this was a later stage, maybe 2008, 2009, where we established ourselves as one of the best or the best CS team. They say like, guys, you know why we sponsor you, right? Oh, not really. I'm 20, I don't really know about this. It looks like you just have so much fun together. Yeah, that was it. You look like a great group, you're smiling, you're having fun, you're just making jokes when you're entering the stage. And this wasn't for the show, this was just a way to just bring up the A game from us, I think. And just the mindset around everything. Of course we fight sometimes, we fought sometimes, but that's also healthy in a business, you know. We are a team, we are a business, we are friends. If you pull that everything in a bag, it's always about like carrying it and having fun at the same time, and then you're gonna become successful. Long story short, yeah, Forrest, DSN and myself, I consider us as a core team. We could probably bring in any kind of player into that group that are on a certain level of Counter-Strike and make that team successful. I think so, at least. We are smart enough and we are able to welcome those players and have fun with these people. Everybody's different, of course, and you have to just appreciate that. I think other teams, you mentioned SK, bringing in Trace, creating probably the most, what should have been the best team ever in Counter-Strike.
Skill-wise, sure.
Skill-wise, but that's not the point. I mean, it's not all about that. The equation doesn't necessarily add up only because they have like great skill in all the players. You're not better than the weakest link, yeah, but I don't know. We were better than anyone to just make the best out of each player, and that started from having fun and having the passion.
Actually, on this topic, for the fans and even some of the teams, that was the approach they always took, which is like kind of look at one position, like can we get a better player than this guy? If so, get him, get this guy over here. But they never really thought of like the more than the sum of their parts, like the thing above the team, you know. Whereas it seemed like before 2009 especially, a lot of the Fnatic teams, it was about like team play, etc., or having a group that meshes well together. When you think of the teams who you think of as the best teams of all time, how loaded with skill do you think they were? How was the balance between like people who do their job and people who are like the mad fraggers? What do you think the balance should be to be like an all-time great team?
Okay, I think the best constellation is obviously a group of people that can work with each other for a long time and be very honest to each other when it doesn't work out. I'm sure the Poles, when they lose, they are kind of forced to be a few amount of people, because there's only so many good players in Poland. Obviously Pasha is the latest player, but he's been around a while. But I think those teams, including Fnatic and some of the greatest team back then, we were honest enough to just sit with each other. We are friends, but also discuss how to make things better. If telling someone when he is doing a bad job, basically, when someone is late for practice, you just say that, okay, come on guys, we are a team, we are a family, you need to just come out on top on that. And going more specific into the roles, I think it starts with having a leader, of course, having a great sniper, it's very, very important. But then you need to have those key players, I would say like Lord, Senya style players maybe, Lord players, that sometimes, correct me if I'm wrong, but sometimes in the public and public's point of view, they are like, oh, you should replace them. Yeah. There are another mad fragger out there. You should just replace him. But he's actually, that player is a cornerstone in the foundation of that team. They are pretty much only successful because he's doing that. He's jumping first before the teammates, and I can maybe not modest to say this, but I can count myself into this as well. I made it sometimes very easy for my teammates to achieve like great stuff, you know, jumping before them, taking a lot of damage, dropping pistols, dropping weapons, and not giving a fuck about that, basically. You know, it's a fucking team game. If we win, just try to optimize every single moment of the game, and having players that are able to do that day after day and realize, okay, I'm not the best pistol player, I'm not the best sniper, I'm not the best fragger, I don't have the best reflexes, but I'm very fine to give you the weapon because I know that's the optimal thing to do at this very moment. And I think every team needs to have one or two of those players that are not really care about what people write on HTV, just care about winning, and knowing that whenever they win, he is as big part of this victory as anyone else. If you have too many egos, I think it will not work out. It will work out for a few months only, and we see many teams going into that kind of destiny in the past, having too much skill basically and too few personalities that can really look at Counter-Strike as a sport, as a team game.
Since you got to play since 2006, you were always competing versus the SK teams. Do you see it on this point? Do you think that was the mistake in their philosophy, that they always tried to get the new hot mad fragger? He was like always the fifth player coming in. 2006 onwards, all these SK lineups. Do you think that was what made them not quite as good as the other great teams?
I think they got completely a different mindset than we have. They are, okay, it is a business sport, and it's also something that you should have fun and enjoy with your friends and teammates. I think that we were like having a great balance. We talked about balance before, but I think SK leaned more towards the business and sport is very important, but more like the business. You know, as you say, they want to replace it. They want to replace a player. They thought. It's sometimes really weird looking back at it. And I know, like,
Kiev is a good example.
I don't know really. They just didn't make. I don't think they make the most of the team as good as they could have become. Maybe giving up too early in some cases. I don't have any specific, because actually they had so many players in and out. I think Sneal did stand in for them for a while, I believe. He could be a really great player, I think, for them. If you just gave him the chance. Modi, oh my God, he is honestly one of the best players I've ever played with. He's grown so much in Fnatic in only like a matter of weeks, because he just appreciated our mindset, you know, having fun, you know, giving him the freedom to walk around on the map as much as he wanted. And I know for a fact, whenever SK releases or kick a player, it's not the players that sit around a table and discussing this with their teammate that they're about to sack. It's actually some kind of manager that they don't really work with on a daily basis. That like, okay, you're not in the team anymore, we're going to replace you and this is going to happen. It's like, oh my God.
Was Fnatic democratic in that sense? Did you always discuss before?
It was even voting sometimes. It's really stressed moments, because you travel with these people like 100 days a year. But I think, like, what kind of person are you if you're not honest enough to sit face to face, eye to eye, and just tell this guy that, okay, there is this player, we are thinking about replacing him, we think you're not good enough, it doesn't work out, we may be having too much fun, we had that sometimes in Fnatic, and people didn't take it as serious as the rest. But I have no respect for people not going down that alley, you know, sitting down with the people. Instead, calling up the manager and making them do the hard work for them. It's like, that's not a team, it's not a family, it's not friends to do that.
Without necessarily having to name any names, does that mean...
I mentioned SK, I'm pretty sure they do that.
Yeah. No, but I mean, for this next question, without naming any names necessarily, before the end of the 2010 lineup of Fnatic, does that mean there were actually times when someone in the team might have voted, okay, let's kick this guy, but you kept him in? Was it ever back and forth on removing someone and replacing them? Yeah,
I think before we got into a situation where we sat down after DreamHack Winter in 2010, Getright, Forest and Gux, they want to get rid of... Okay, so the deal was they want to get rid of DSN in the fall, after WM. But I was like obviously not appreciating that, because he was the guy that enabled me to be in this very moment. And I think, honestly, looking back at it, that wasn't what needed to happen in that current constellation of people. But as I was very strong-minded regarding this, keeping DSN, we ended up in a situation where 2 against 3 basically. Gux and Forrest and Getright, they want to get rid of the both of us, because they knew that they can only not get rid of DSN. And I'm not saying I took a bullet for DSN, obviously not, because I would get fired, sacked eventually as well. But I think that was the only way they can do it. And maybe they took for granted that Fnatic would be on their side. Maybe Fnatic, looking back at it, maybe they would have been better off. Maybe not, it's very hard to tell. But I think they would not... I think Fnatic would not be in this situation right now, ending Counter-Strike 1.6 with a team that were, dominant in 2012. That will never happen. I think just to prove is that SK with this team, Getright, Gux, and Getright, Forest, and the rest of those players, they didn't stick together for that long. They were only successful for a few months after even stealing players from the team that we created in 2011. So it's kind of a funny story, but I don't know. Stuff happens, you know. You cannot be friends with everyone forever. I understand some of their thoughts about it as well, and I'm still kind of good friends with most of them, because we were friends, we were teammates, we shared the life together and playing a lot, so no regrets there, and I understand them totally.
Before you got this amazing 2009 lineup, everyone knows, okay, so the star of Fnatic was Forrest, obviously other people played their roles, so you got to play with this guy for a long time in his career and yours and see his prime as a player. When do you think of in your mind as his absolute peak form, and like how do you use a player like that in your team? Do you just kind of let him go off and do what he wants to do, or do you have a specific role and you're trying to keep him on a leash? How does it work in that sense?
No, I will not take any highlight or spotlight away from Forrest here. He's just a brilliant person, a brilliant player that you said, yeah, you can just let him play freely and he will do the job for you. And I think that's the way to go. Looking compared to sport, you know, letting Messi play however he wants, or Ronaldo, Wayne Rooney, you know, that's the way to go with some people. But still, the rest of us need to adapt a lot to this player as well. You talked about Prime with Forrest, I think 2006, but he has been remarkable good to keep a consistency, being like the best player in the world, even today in CSGO. So he's a prodigy in FPS. I think he can take up pretty much any kind of FPS title out there and be successful in it. And we will not be at this very moment being probably the most consistent team without him. He's a big factor. He was a great player for many years and won so many matches, including tournaments for us. And how we used him, yeah, just let Forrest. Let's just release the fury, release the beast. That's how we use him, and make him have fun as well. I think that I think he appreciates. I'm sure if I asked him like if he enjoyed playing for Fnatic, I'm pretty sure he said yes. And if it's important to enjoy playing in the team, I think that's very important. I think we help with that, and being great teammates to him and allowing him to get the rifles, get the pistols on the pistol round, and optimizing every opportunity we can use him in the round.
With someone like a Forrest or a Neo, these guys who aren't just like star players, they're sort of like the superstar players. There's so few of them in the world. If ever one of you leaves your team, it's like you probably can never get someone as good as that back in. And to use the analogy there, like if Messi leaves Barcelona, maybe they can get someone who's really, really good as well, but
different money.
Probably won't be as good in the team though. So you must have known when they leave to SK, like even if we can have success, like you won some tournaments, it's probably never going to be possible to be like the whole time #1 ever again. Is this true? Did you have this sense once Forrest left at Fnatic that we probably can never be the height as we were before?
Yeah, I think progressively how Counter-Strike developed, or developed, I guess you say, it became more and more difficult to stay consistent and dominate the year. I think I said before that the Fnatic 2012 team would obviously beat 2019, and the 2019 would obviously beat SK 2003. I think people are always referring to those stuff, so we make that very clear here. But let's say SK with Delpa and Get Right, Forrest, and if ESK had a better sponsorship and they were able to go to all those tournaments, and Navi didn't mess up as much as he did this year, I think our team would not be that dominant actually. It was quite easy to go to those tournaments. But obviously losing Forrest, he was the hardest player to lose. Obviously he had a great bond with him, playing with him for many years. And he was just a beast, irreplaceable player. But I don't know, somewhere inside me I kind of thought that we could stay consistent. I think you have to think like that. Maybe it's not realistic when I look back at it now, but at that point I kind of knew that me and the ASEAN, obviously we lost one of the core players, 33% of us, but somehow we felt like we can make a great team, and if we only win one tournament, we show ourselves, we make those new players stars, the next fours I suppose exist, and just take it from there. What happened was that we didn't really work out socially with Delpan. He was kind of hard to deal with. He's a great guy. I have no hard feelings, but long term it would never work out with him. He was like, yeah, in general kind of hard to deal with, coming late to practices and eventually kind of fucking us over going to SK. They more or less in front of us at I think this was a qualifier in Stockholm. They just talked to Delpan, and the next day was like getting a Skype message. I might leave to SK. It's a great deal. They really want me. Okay. They haven't won anything at that point. We were more successful at that point. We lost to them, yes, but that was a bit disappointing, of course. But we saw it happen.
Was there any regret or was it difficult in the sense that once they had Delpan, they never lost to you? I mean, they only played you 8 maps or something because you didn't make that much later on, but they won like 7 and drew 1. Like they were always getting the upper hand in that little rivalry.
Of course, that bothers me. How can I explain that? I don't really know how to explain that. We're just better. I think it was a mind ghost for us or something like that. Maybe it's a bit my leadership and my tactics, the way I play is not suitable against these kind of constellation of players, Swedish players, especially when they are controlled by Robban. He's a great in-game leader. and this happened in 2006 as well. But at the same time, what I'm a bit happy about regarding all this, losing a lot of games or all the games to them, is that we kind of forgot about it. We tried to just do our best in every game. We knew it was going to be hard because they had the upper hand, winning every game. Of course, you feel very confident. They did that in 2006 and in 2011. But besides that, we were able to stick together in the group. Obviously, after a few player changes, but we went out on top of that year, going to IEM in China, winning that, and then finishing up and winning DreamHack. I think another team would maybe have just given up, you know. We went through so much shit in the summertime. People were like creating threads like, cArn, retire now, you need to retire. fnatic, the bosses should just kick all the players. Everyone should retire, you suck, you will never win anything. A few player changes later, I think many people may disagree, but I think we ended, okay, looking back at 2011, I think we were a top 3 team, the number 3 team that year in terms of achievements after the Poles and SK. Navi, they did win the IEM, if I don't remember wrong. But that's about it for them. I think we won early on in the year, then had some rough time in the summer, a few medals, but then 2 international events in DreamHack and IEM. DreamHack is one of those tournaments I'm most proud about winning, because no one expected that, and we went through so much shit that year, so many player changes, and leaving that year with a gold medal, and the title I actually never had the chance to win before, so that was just great.
Earlier on we mentioned the Poles. You guys actually almost had opposite careers, because your team was always so famous for being consistent, always top 3s, well, for at least a few years in a row, always top 3s, but then at the events that people call like the biggest events, like IEM, WCG, you didn't get so many of the titles. Right. They were almost the opposite. They could win a big WCG, and then the next tournament they could be 9th place or something. Totally different style. Like, how did you see their team, and why do you think the 2 teams were so different in their route? Was it something to do with the makeup of the team, or what do you think?
I have to wash my tongue now. First of all, I have big respect to them. They are more or less the greatest team in the history of Counter-Strike. And what I have most respect of is how well they kept the team together. A little bit because there are not so many good players in Poland. There are a few, no disrespect to them, but they are like the people of international standards. But comparing us to them, I think their game style was not that consistent because they were so aggressive. They took too many risks, and they probably depended more on Neo than we depended on Forest, maybe, and that's not a consistent answer for every year, because sometimes Neo was like up and down, sometimes Forest was up and down. But in general, looking on the entire period of time, I think they depended more on Neo than we did on Forest. Could be wrong, I think so at least. They have been a very unlucky team with sponsorship, having a consistent partner to work with and being sent to all those events. That's one reason that we have won so many tournaments, international tournaments, because we have probably had more chances to try out, you know. And one reason why they have won so many major is WCG is very easy for them to get there.
Sure.
And it's very easy to win WCG compared to the tournaments on European soil. And just looking at the last WCG, was that 2011 in Korea, where they, before the semi-final, didn't play any, they ended up on the good side of the bracket, so to speak. They played, I think they only played, was it SK in the they play SK in the finals. That was the only tough game in my opinion, because they know when they play, I think was it Kazakhstan or something like that in the semis. They know I would feel very comfortable going against them in the best of 3 with the experience you have. So what we're looking at there, I'm just talking about WCG 2011 now. So the other WCGs has been very competitive, but particularly 2011 event was like, okay, you're playing SK in the final, and that's a coin flip in my book. So that's very easy to win. So it helped for them to win majors, to be a Polish team, because it's not that competitive. Besides that, they had a remarkable, extraordinary way to get into tournaments they didn't qualify for.
Sure.
And I don't know how many $100,000 I lost due to this, because
I don't think they qualified for any IEM.
No, I don't think they actually did that. So I wonder, like, okay, Carmack, you're a Pole, you're the director of IEM. Did you do something? No, I think Counter-Strike and gaming and esport, we really needed to have them there. We needed to have that presence from a Polish team, and they are such a great team. So I don't know why they messed up the online qualifiers or something like that, but they weren't obviously as consistent. And as the sport, the esport Counter-Strike was or is not that developed, there are like loopholes in the rules and the tournament structure which allow them, even that they, like, fair play wise didn't deserve to be in the tournament, they got there and they are a great team. They are like always a contender for the medals, and sometimes they won it. They're really great in finals. They are one of the hardest opponents when you play in the final, because it's something in their minds. They don't really give a shit if they lose or win. They just play aggressive. You don't expect what they're doing. Neo is acing every pistol round. So I started this long story about saying, like, okay, WCG 2011 very easy, and they had some luck. But in the end of the day, when we're talking about the actual games, they were such a strong team, and is a strong team. It's going to be interesting though to see how well they can do in CS:GO, because they are a bit old now. I feel it's going to be tough for them. But all of them, 80% of them at least, will go down as big legends in Counter-Strike. And Pasha has done a great job replacing Luke since, when was it, 2010, 2011 or something like that. And even that our like friendship didn't start that well. In 2006, going to WSVG, we had practiced so much against them. I think we beat them almost every practice. They felt like we were a bit. I think they would probably name us a bit as onliners or something, because we didn't have their gold medals at that point. And then we went to the first game on D-Train, best of one map, and people just, it was like, I wouldn't say we got into fist fights, but it was like you can really feel the atmosphere there. It was like so much intention going on, and people were so upset when you lost a duel or whatever. It was almost hate. But in 2007, people got a bit more mature, and ever since, I think all of us that has been in this ride of professional Counter-Strike, SK, MTW, Navi, the Poles, we have become pretty much a nice like brotherhood. We have like had fun. Okay, we are enemies when we're playing, but after that we go out, drink, we have fun, and I think that's the greatest thing about having the experience in this industry, that meeting those people and being friends with them, you know, and learning from them, and not necessarily. What I'm trying to say is that, long story short, yeah. So I'm really happy about that we eventually bridged the gap in terms of communication and the language barrier, and we became friends with those teams. So that feels great. I'm not getting emotional here or anything, but I'm really happy about how that went out, and big respect to those guys. That's, if I can bring only one team to a lonely island, that would be the Poles. They are really good guys. Yeah.
From a player's perspective, they will probably look at most tournaments that go through a tournament like the circuit each year, and they'll judge how good the tournament is by how many good teams were there or how difficult it was to win. And so there can be tournaments that have all the good teams, but maybe the name of the tournament isn't so big, like DreamHack used to be back in the days. It wasn't such a big tournament like as WCG, which actually might have had less good teams there, because it might have only had one Swedish team. But we do still call those the majors, we call them ESWC, etc. And someone could say, as a criticism of your career, that you didn't win as many majors as, for example, the Poles or Navi, etc. Is this something from your perspective that is like one of the regrets of your career, that you weren't able to win these? Does it not matter to you if you won the other tournaments that might have been as good? How do you see this weighing up like the career achievements?
No, I think you said it kind of perfectly before, that I think it should only, it's a bit tricky, because history is a bit important, legacy as well, like WCG has a legacy and CPL has. But being a player, being someone that competes in that, the only thing you think about is actually like how, looking at the amount of teams and how good they are. Prize money helps as well, of course. And I think in the later years, the prize money in those, you call this majors, they weren't that high anyway, like WCG, for example. A lot of bad talking about WCG. Sorry, the Koreans, by the way. Sorry, Samsung. But yeah, for me, yeah, you can criticize the fnatic players' career, that we didn't win as many majors. But then again, the tournaments we won, that maybe like even NGL back in the days, they were really competitive. The IEM Europe stops, really competitive, probably more than the World Finals in most cases. So I think like the achievement of winning them that you shouldn't just forget about that as well. Of course, the glory of winning many WCG, maybe that would taste better, I don't know, but for us, being consistent and being able to achieve placement in the medals has been the only thing that is important, to be honest. If it's ESWC or WCG, IEM stopping China, that doesn't really matter. It's all about which kind of teams that go there and from which teams you get out on top from, in my opinion.
The most famous Fnatic lineup has to be this 2009 one, not just because of the stars, but because of like the success of that year. And even with all the events you won, some of the events you didn't win, you still came second place in, or you had so the overall amount was like, you either won the tournament or lost to the best team at the tournament, basically. So you were so high up. When that was all going on, did you have a sense that like, this is just a great team for this moment, or this team will just last forever, or will never be beaten? What was it like? Did you feel unbeatable at the time?
Yes, most likely. Statistic-wise, going into the tournament, I think if you put all those tournaments we played in 2009 and you divide them by the amount of tournaments, I think that would the placement of our placement divided by the amount of tournaments, that would be something like one point something, which means that we're expecting ourselves to win there basically by going there. Especially the first 8 months of the year, we kind of felt unstoppable. But that's a tricky thing as well. When you're starting to feel too comfortable, people get, I don't know, people become a bit different in terms of when success happens to you. I think historically we have been great to tackle that. But with that current lineup, maybe some of the players were too young or something, but some other stuff became more important than actually winning and staying consistent. I would say that was about individual performances. Maybe this was in line when HCTV stats came into the picture. People got really frustrated and like they wanted to play the best in the team. They want to have the MVP awards, blah blah blah. Whereas some of us, okay, I will never be, in my role and the way I play Counter, I will never be one of those people getting the MVP votes or like great stats on HCTV, because that's not just my style. But for some people that was really important. So I think we lost ourselves in that a bit, that we forgot about the team effort and was all about like having a lot of people writing good stuff about you. And when this happened, we lost a few tournaments. And from that, I think people just got tired of each other. Like we thought maybe, okay, we were that good, now we're not that good. How do we get to next level? Do we sit down and break down the problems and getting back to the idea of playing as a team? Or do we kick a few players or replace a few players? And we ended up with that, obviously, replacing or losing Gux, Forrest and Get Right. A bit sad, because I'm sure we could have a great, this was 2010, end of 2010, but I'm sure we could keep this lineup and make it work, but we didn't give it a proper chance, I feel. Still, in 2010 with Fred, we had such a great time, again, because Fred is just such an amazing guy. We talked a bit earlier about when you pick a new player, should you just pick the best player out there, the star, the aimer, the mad fragger, or should you pick someone that you think can fit your team picture? And we thought that with Fred, and I think we were really consistent back then. I think if we only have a bit more patient and realize that Counter-Strike right now is more competitive, you cannot just achieve that kind of game you did in 2009 year after year. I think, like, yeah, mindset-wise you should always aim for that, but realistically it's really hard, because it was 2009, 2010, 2011. That's so far, by far, if you look at 3 years of Counter-Strike history comparing to 2003 to 2006, it's like you can't compare it. 2009, 2010, 2011 is so damn competitive, because you have MTW, you have Navi, you have the Poles, you have a great SK, you have a great fnatic. You have like 6 teams, mouz sometimes as well. There were like so many good teams that can go and win tournaments. So it wasn't realistic to, okay, looking back at it at least, that we could be as good as we were in 2009. But it was all about like sticking to our plans, but we weren't able to do that because we lost ourselves in a bit of individual pride and got a bit tired of each other from that. Damn you, hctv.org.
A few of the times, the big famous instances where you didn't win, you came close and maybe it was a big tournament, is there one that sticks in your mind? Like, I mean, a lot of these you actually came in as the favorite. So I'm thinking of, for example, of WCG 2009. At the time, you know, the Poles hadn't done anything in quite a while, and so you guys were on this amazing run. Everyone thought, well, for sure, fnatic's going to win the gold. Another example would be the first two IEM events of 2010. You had this the mouse sports one where they had this brand new team and you just lost by like 1 round or something at the end of the third map. Mm-hmm. Then you had Na'Vi come along and no one even knew if your Ukrainian team could win a big event. So these are like some. Is there one that sticks in your mind though, where like you were just sure you were going to win this match, or you think back and you still don't know how you lost it? You know.
I think it was really great research from you because you kind of nailed those 3 matches that I think goes down in the history as the worst losses. Maybe the WSVG one in 2006 against 3D as well. Okay, let's start with WCG 2009. Against the Poles, we had like the best run ever, I think. Being the team of the year, going there very confident. Having some problems early on in the playoff against TEG, the Romanian team. I think we lost the map against them. But still, we were so consistent that even if we lost the first map, we would be able to win this. Going into the final, big crowd, we were most likely one of the most popular teams in China. Felt a bit, I wouldn't say home soil for us, but it felt like a bit coming home, this is our tournament. But I think WCG 2009 losing against Poles is like the worst match I ever lost in terms of how I felt, but it's also the best thing that has ever happened to me, honestly, losing that. And what I'm getting at is that I had kind of made big plans for myself that I'm going to retire if I win WCG. Stupidest thing ever. If you look back at it, why would I do that? It didn't make sense. But I think I potentially would have gone through with that. Maybe not just straight after WCG, but maybe after the upcoming DreamHack or something. After 2009. But it was a bit like you were in a stage that you won ESWC. People might not call it a major, but it was a Korean event. You have won Code 5, you won CPL now, you won IEM. Like, come on, WCG, we need to win that tournament. So I felt like maybe I give it a few more tries. Never happened, will never happen for me. Fine. So that was very emotional losing that, because it felt like the perfect year. We really need to win this in China, blah blah blah. So that was probably 1 out of 2 times in my career I was almost on the verge of starting to cry, because I was so emotionally upset, and I think all of us were. You cannot really describe it why it was like that. It's just, I think everyone was so damn disappointed, so damn sad, even if the prize money was not the best in the world. But something about that very moment was just too much for us to cope with emotionally. But then again, the best thing happened for me that I kept on playing. Had I would say a great year in 2010. Learned many important lessons late 2010. Played in 2011, won DreamHack. I wouldn't be able to win that if I lost in WC, for example. So yeah, moving on, losing to mouz. Was that 2010?
First event,
January?
2010, yep.
Yeah, that was tough, but that was more like a game that so losing against, again, at WCG 2009, it was like they won over us because they were better. But mouz in IEM Europe 2010, it didn't really feel like that. Obviously they won, they were the better team, but we lost so many like stupid rounds and it was so close. That was like devastating, because once back we felt like we were back delivering great Counter-Strike, playing with Fred at that point, coming from WEM in China with him, the first event for him. Losing Gax was hard, but Fred just felt like a great guy that can replace him. Not the same player style, but same mindset in one sense, you know, having fun on the road, working as a team, winning as a team. Against mouz, we just messed it up badly, and so that goes down as one of the worst losses, like how you felt mentally after it, at least, because you just feel like you have it, you give it away. Why you want to do that? Then, unfortunately, very same year, just a few weeks later, Na'Vi came from middle of the nowhere, somewhere in Ukraine, I suppose, and beat us in the World Finals, IEM. And my thoughts about that? I think at that point, 2010, we played the best Counter-Strike we ever did. At that point, IEM, like, if you watch the games...
This year, you mean?
No, just those few matches at that tournament, until the final. I think we never played that, like... never really played that well. Everything worked, you know. We beat teams that were really good, like 16-2, 16-6. I think that was SK, for example. they like had no chance in the rounds even. Like we were 5 alive after each round. Then moving on against Navi, even when we knew obviously they were in the semis, it always felt like, oh, lucky for the Poles or whoever they placed them, they're gonna get in the finals. Lucky for that team, they're gonna have Navi in the quarterfinal. And then he just went on in final. Hey, okay, we have played like probably 50 hours against this team, a lot of practices in the last 2 weeks. But still, we were stupid enough we didn't really consider that fact that these guys they are here to stay. First of all, they have made a big investment in this team. Alexander, the founder and the CEO, they are clever people. They are here to stay. They're not unserious in any sense. They're like looking at the bootcamp pitch and all. They had like big maps of the Counter-Strike maps. So they knew our game inside and out. And yeah, looking back at it, how stupid we were to just play the same style basically. But it also happened many things after this that made me think, without taking anything away from them, that something was a bit shady as well, because they played too perfectly. Maybe they did, maybe they just played it after considering how we played in the practice games, and the rotation was like top notch, always 4 people were attacked. But we're probably gonna get to that later, like we had some conflicts with Navi, but overall they proved themselves there and then. They can't aim, they can't win pistol rounds, they have great strategies and all that, so they surprised us, they surprised the world. If we would only be a bit more smart at that point, we should have played maybe different pistol rounds, we should have had different setups, try different stuff, innovate our game a bit more. But yeah, before we knew it, 1.5 hours later, we lost a medal that we thought we were going to have and reclaim after having it in 2009. Very, very disappointing. Not only losing $30,000 didn't bother me, but losing that gold medal and being one of few teams that were, or probably the only team until then, that was able to win the title 2 times in a row. And that would feel great as well as we had a new player, and also losing against mouz at IEM. But unfortunately, it didn't went that way. Shit happens. But yeah, we named 3 matches, 3 finals, which I feel is like emotionally I get a bit disturbed by even think about them. WCG 2009 against again mouz IEM Europe 2010, and Navi in the CBIT IEM finals 2010 as well.
Okay, so to address something we kind of hinted on earlier or implied when we were talking about Navi in 2010 and beyond this, there was this famous incident where Senyu was seen on the last round against the Poles, actually, looking at this screen in the Cyberarena in Kiev. And I know from talking to you actually before, this is something that you think maybe happened at other times, or maybe other players have done this. What do you have to say about this issue?
Okay, let me first address that. How to say this? So like, this is obviously an interview about my career and all that. I don't want this to like overshadow anything, and obviously not taking anything away from anyone. There are great teams, great players and all that. But okay, let's make one thing clear. So that incident you're referring to, I saw it myself, and I think one of my teammates recorded it, uploaded it, showed it to the admins. It was a very shady round. First of all, that's the worst thing you can do. You never watch the big screen when you're a player. 0 delay. You don't watch the game because you got it behind you. Like you get all the information you need to beat your opponent, and you should not have it. And even if you claim that you didn't speak, which he did in this case, even if you do not speak, you still get information you should not have. Even information that might be useful in the next rounds. You can see like a guy is aggressive there. Then it's maybe less likely it's going to be the next round. You see which kind of rifles he have, which HP, setups, blah blah blah. You don't do it. Simple as that. Okay, so what happened at that time? I had suspected it a bit because I mean the setups of Counter-Strike, professional Counter, is really shit to avoid those incidences. It happens many times. WM, I'm going to get to that as well, and there are probably more teams that have done this, but I'm sure Navi at that point they did ghost, which means they looked at the screen, they informed about what they saw to their teammate. And why I'm sure about this is because I was there 10 meters away, seeing what happened, seeing them talking, not only one player, several instances. And most important, which I think people don't understand or understood at that point, when there was like the community went a bit crazy, accusing fnatic, accusing myself for being an idiot, bad, like a whiner, whatever, was that the referee actually gave them a yellow card because they ruled that they were actually ghosting, which means, okay, my observation, the referee said the same thing. They didn't have the balls enough to disqualify, which obviously would be the necessary thing to do in such an occasion. And when that happens, it makes me very like demotivated. It makes me very disappointed because I know how many finals I lost against this team in on grand finals with the big screen. And by any means, I do not say they have done it before, ever since or before. I cannot prove it, obviously, but it makes me think that it's probably likely they did it. And maybe we lost key moments because of this. Maybe this is why the rotation was so top-notch. Maybe that's why the guy found that guy behind the box, which wasn't the proper way to look at in that current situation. So of course you're starting to think about those things, and then you can be like sleepless for many nights, realizing you lost glory, gold medals, prize money, blah blah blah, and just makes you a bit disappointed that people cannot appreciate fair play, which I think we have 99.9% done in fnatic, and many of our other rivals has done as well. So yeah, not about taking anything away from anyone. At that current situation, that team ghosted, the referee ruled that way, and that make me disappointed, thinking that they might have done it before. If people think I'm crazy for saying this, sure, but I'm sure the cyclists, when Lance Armstrong, they having like a lot of accusation, now they finally prove it that he did it. Of course, these guys, they put their life into something. They went through so much pain, so many hours, losing in finals, and they maybe felt like, okay, maybe something shady going on. And then you get that proof. Of course, everything that happened before that, you're also starting to think how that happened and why that happened, and try to explain it. So I'm very doubtful, but great team, great players. Markelov is, definitely in the top of the AWP players. Edward, awesome players, all of them great constellation of players. Unfortunately, they were not that successful after in 2010, in my opinion. So I wouldn't put them up in like the top tier of greatest Counter-Strike teams in the history. At that point, 2010, yes, they were. But yeah, many things happened after that made me a bit disappointed. However, I'm great friends with many of them. It's one thing to be in the game, it's one thing to be outside the game. I'm trying to just think sensible about this and being reasonable. But yeah, disappointed is probably the key word here. And just great to finally be able to explain this. I think people didn't understand that that occasion where fnatic and myself got a lot of shit in Kiev, I think it was MSI beat it, that the referee actually ruled in what we were pushing for as well, that this ghosting incident happened. I think ghosting is the worst thing, probably besides Warlack. I think it's even worse than Warlack and aimbot, because that's more obvious stuff to cheat. You cannot do that. So yeah, ghosting is really shit. It's bad for the sport, and for me as a competitor, it feels really bad. And to name other few incidences, we have also been in some kind of public arguments, I guess. It's WEM 2010 with Gux, Getright, Forest, DSN. We play against EG. Forest is faking a diffuse against Lurpis. And okay, we lost that round. We probably would have lost that moment in 8 out of 10 times. Sure. But afterwards we see a video that Fragbite had accidentally made of a fraud sitting like I do here, watching his friend to the right, the screen, and also he can see the big screen. It was like the worst setup ever. It was like reverse. It was like, what do you call that? Yeah, you see what happens. You can see if you diffuse, basically. You even hear the sound. And if you like watch the movie once, you're like, okay, yeah, we lost that. That was the moment. Then you watch again, like, is that guy talking? Is he watching the screen and talking? And then you're listening very carefully. You can hear what he's saying, and he literally say that he didn't take the diffuse. That's great information to have when you're in a one-on-one. And he said that he's coming out, basically, which means, yeah, you just wait in your position and you're going to get the kill. That happened. And, okay, the admins, they didn't rule in our favor at that point, but they came to us afterward with an official apologize, saying, like, you were actually right, we should have done that. Also, teammates of this very player, Fraud, has told me afterward that this actually happened. So, I don't know. Maybe people think I'm an idiot for saying this in public, but like, if people are cheating, they should be punished and they should be revealed, exposed. But whatever, this is another kind of interview, I suppose. But I just want to air those opinions and explain what actually happened. If people have any doubts, if they don't believe me, whatever. I just explain from my point of view, and my teammates are exactly on my end here, and many of our team are friends in other teams as well.
If we think of all the people who would be selected as like the greatest tactics leaders, let's just say in-game leader actually is a title, all of them have their own speciality, maybe where they were the best at that one thing. So people will say, okay, maybe tactics or anti-strats, Ave was the best, or maybe like in-game reading, someone might say Gobby might be the best. They all have their own charm like this. I think maybe like for just preparation, maybe someone would say Zeus was the best. I don't know, whatever someone's like preferred priority they think for the in-game leader is. So what was cArn's speciality? What was the thing that he did the best, or what was his strength as a leader, do you think?
I think not only myself, but the core players in fnatic, I mentioned this before, we had a great way of integrating a new player in our team and making it work from pretty much day one. Maybe not the first practice, but hey, okay, he plays like that. He fits at that point. We were smart enough to see this needs to happen, and we're going to be the best team again. I think adapt, that was one of, at least that's one of my speciality, I'd say. But I don't know, I think people are overestimating those kind of terms as well, you know, like great anti-strategies, great to prepare. I think like most of these guys are also very good to, yeah, we said adapt. I think the Counter-Strike is like real-time chess as well. You say StarCraft 2 is a bit like that, but also if you look at the overview, how people are moving, how the dots are moving on the map, it's a lot about like taking that call, the ultimate way to execute a round in a perfect way to win it. But then there are players like Ave, yeah, they had a very fixed style of playing, like great rotation, great flashbangs and all that. But I think we tried a more like free approach, maybe depending on which players we had in Forest, you know, we can just utilize them in a way. So I don't know, I think we all were a bit different, but all of us, says Ave, Gob, we just tried to do the best with the current lineup we had. And I wouldn't dare to rate myself among them, but I know some of them, they only were in-game leader for so many years. I were leader from 2003 until now, and I try to adapt, innovate my game, our strategies, and changing it year to year, year from year, by help from my teammates as well. I mean, we are a team. In-game leading role is not overrated, it's needed, but I wouldn't like try to boil it down further, like say best in-game leader in reading the game. It's like you're a leader, you're not a leader. You're supposed to do your job. How you do it, yeah, sure, it's up to each and everyone.
But speaking of this, there's another aspect that we haven't mentioned yet, which is like leadership in the literal sense of the word, like how you lead people, how you motivate people. And one of the few things you could probably criticize some of the other great people is, sometimes they were the tactician or they were the guy who was reading the game, but then they were just one other guy in the team. They didn't necessarily like build the morale, they didn't keep people in line or say like, you do your job over here, you know, they weren't like the leader in this sense. Do you feel that's like a valid thing, that some people in CS didn't necessarily catch on to the importance of that? Because it always seemed like that was something that was kind of like your strong suit, you know?
Yeah, I think I agree a little bit about that, and that's something I consider myself pretty good at. I'm not the best aimer, I'm not the best clutch player, but I'm kind of great to motivate and inspire a team, a group of people to not to do what I want, but I do what we want to do and figure out what we want to do. Even when I was a child, like 6-7 years, I was always the leader in any kind of sport I did, or even in the school we did some stupid plays. I was the leader among my friends. Like, what are we gonna do tonight? Okay, we do this. It's just something in my DNA, I think. Like, not only in the game, that becomes natural as well, because I've been an in-game leader since 2003. But like after the game, setting up, you know, okay, what are we gonna do? We are in China, like, okay, we lost. Get on the, okay, Google maybe is blocked, but get on the maps, find a nice restaurant, you know, just trying to push people to make decisions they maybe don't dare to do, but they want to do, if you see what I mean. It's a bit like, I don't want to make it sound like rocket science, but I try to be an in-game leader in the sense of the game, but I also brought it outside the game. Successfully or not, I think we, more than any team, were one of the most consistent team, and I think this relates a lot to the time we had with each other besides the game, because on the worst year, or the best year I suppose, we travel up to 100 days a year, and if you are only a leader in the game, I think you're not as trustworthy if you are not able to be it outside the game as well. So it's a bit like either you are a leader or you're not. I don't understand how Counter-Strike could be different in that sense. I'm pretty sure going into the dress room of any like professional football team, you will see the leader is probably like motivating the guys, talking to them, not being the silent guy in the corner, which maybe some of the names you mentioned are. I don't know. Each time when I make interviews, people want me to rate other players, but I will never rate any player I never play with.
Oh, okay.
But as opponents, they are really great players, all of them, and I think like, I mean, I can rate them in a sense which I thought was hardest to play.
Oh, okay. Who would this
and
be?
That would be like, my brain would like to say Sevs, but as I said before, some stuff happened. Zeus, yeah, Sevs, okay. However you pronounce Greece. My English is not even that good. But my heart would also like to say like Abe, because I really respected his strategies and how damn well they rotated on the maps. You know, they could demolish you in a matter of a split second in any kind of round, because it was like a great factory, you know, a great production line. Just like everything is dun, 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 and you were down, losing like 16-2, 16-4 in Code 5, I think, 2008. Yeah, and ESWC Masters in Paris, was that also 2008?
Yeah, next event.
Yeah, but he was only a leader for so many years as well. Same with Sevs. They changing the roles. I don't understand why they do that. They are not able to adapt, maybe. But okay, so Sevs and Ave, they would be my hardest opponents when it comes to strategies, I think. I have to say Robban as well. But I can't really recall whether he was the leader in 2006 when he played NIP. But in 2011, I think it was Valle most of that year at least. But in 2011, of course, he made my job a mess, beating SK with Getright and Forest. So yeah, he played a strong game. But that was only for a few amount of months. So yeah, the Ukrainian and the Dane, I would say.
When you were talking before about CS as kind of like the real-time chess game, and how as a leader you're having to kind of like figure out the right call to make, or the next thing that you do in the moment, not necessarily things you prepared before. Can you think of a game now, if I ask you to, from your career where it just felt like you were controlling everything just right, everything went exactly as to plan, you were making the right calls here and there? Is there something that stands out in your mind as a really good one?
Yeah, I have we talked a bit about anti-strategies before. And I think the best example from my end here is playing against Lions on Nuke. This was IEM 2011, I think, World Finals. 16-4, maybe. It was really weird. I watched the demo that morning. And when I watched the first weapon round they did, and I started to think, like, what will Threat think that I'm going to do towards that? Because he knows I'm going to watch the demo. I know he knows that I'm going to... It's like Inception-ish. And I came up with an idea that I thought, okay, he is gonna do this. And I did this after considering which kind of rounds they have and how they would fake it to make us think they're gonna do this, and we're gonna adapt in a way. And I did like the opposite towards that, and it worked out like so damn perfect. It was like insane. So I had a timer, for example. I told Pita, on the first weapon round, you're gonna drop floor on Nuke CT. You're gonna get close to the door. At 1:37, you're gonna start spray on the door. He gets the first kill on 1:36 because they was trying to do some yard fake, because we knew they had some kind of yard rush. They kind of invented that on Nuke, because 4 guys rushing yard, and they tried to fake that in some kind of weird way, smoking us, And I'm like, okay, this is Christmas. They're gonna do what I'm expecting. Instead, they're starting to just rush, opening the door without any flashbang and rush out because they thought we're gonna stack on yard. So yeah, that worked out well. And throughout that map, they kind of felt when I think in Fred's mindset, they're like, okay, we got definitely red there. You know, they're gonna know everything we gonna do. So he couldn't really lead that game for them at that point. Other great examples of when I felt like the strategy works out. I think there was more room for those strategies to work out back in the days, like playing, I remember, what was it called, WEG, maybe 2005 with we play NIP, like qualify when Lurpis and Wings went on and win, I think, or they placed in the final, whatever. I think we beat them 16-2 on Dust 2, and we came up with some kind of cool rounds that CS hadn't seen at that very point, like mixed rounds. 2 guys jumped down ST in the middle of Dust 2, rush catwalk, whereas 3 guys just walked in and planted bomb side B, and it worked like every time, and then we started to fake it. And now I just realized another round against Lions, or I don't know which team it was, but Fred led the team. I'm not trying to badmouth Fred here, but for some reason my game fits his game. If this was 2009, I think, we had strategies where we spammed like catwalk rushes. We started to, 4 of us, terrorist Dust 2, started to rush against long. If the grenades came there, like that happens like 33%, depending on which team, obviously. If the grenades came there, we had a guy in low dark, smoke in the middle, the guys just rush catwalk. Okay. We felt strongly that they're gonna do some anti-strategy against that very early on in that match. So all of us 5, like, we were like in the dark mindset-wise. We were blind. We blindly went towards bomb side B, and there was no one there on the first weapon round. We planted the bomb, and they probably sat and waited for us. 4 guys on A, like, bomb has been planted. Like, okay, what are we doing now? They saved the rifles. I think, what can I do? But yeah, there have been those moments where you felt like your strategies really made a difference. But most of the time, there has been like more like the adapting stuff you've done. Like, okay, guys, it's not working in A. They know it's not working A, so they're gonna go B, and you kind of read that they are gonna do that. It's a bit Inception-ish again, but sometimes this really works out, and sometimes it obviously fails. But I, more than many other leaders, I think I try to always, in the game as well, listen to what my teammates say. Like, if they say, okay, sometimes a player, like Gux, for example, he can, one match, he can say, like, it's so easy to go ramp. I go ramp and kill Neo every round. But then he have a bad day, and I know, maybe he's gonna lose that duel 1 out of 3 or something like that, depending on how good he is that very day. But sometimes it's just, his game just breaks down, and he just tell me, like, I cannot go ramp anymore, it's impossible. Some leaders might say, like, oh, continue to do what you're doing. But I was like, when I know a player is very uncomfortable doing one thing, I try to appreciate that and let them do something else. If that is someone else replacing him doing that, and this is more prominent when you're CT, for example, they feel like, I cannot really do this. And then you just need to, even if you feel a bit proud about your setup or strategy, you just have to say, like, you have to appreciate that this player is not feeling comfortable doing what he's doing. You just have to change that. And I think we did that many times. Obviously more than any observer can see, because they don't understand those things. But we try to do that a lot, listening to whatever player, how they wanted to play. And this is not only in the game, in the matches, but this is also in the walkthroughs, in the tactics we do before every practice night. Trying to just come up with a concept which fits everyone, depending which rifle they want to use, which timing they want to have, how many grenades, if it's too complicated, and find kind of a middle way where we talk the same language of Counter-Strike. That is something I think I and my teammates, we were very good at.
Okay, on a totally different note, this is a question I've never heard anyone even address. Sure. It's kind of one I just thought up recently. So towards the end of 2011 in fnatic, you finally took in a non-Swedish player. You took in Freeze, and then SK took in Trace the next year, and then mouzSports took in Zonic. I mean, these are all Danish players, but it's the fact that you had teams before where it was always German players, it was always Swedish players. This is just the way it was done in CS. Right. I mean, obviously there's an element to where, because WCG wasn't as important, then people maybe didn't mind as much. Mm-hmm. But before, people used to think part of the reason is because if you're in a really tight game and you have to communicate something to someone really quickly, you have to be able to speak his language like perfectly. Otherwise, you know, something might go wrong.
Sure.
So I know you were a big admirer before you got traced into this fnatic of him as a player. Like, you thought he was a really great player. Another example I would think of would be Real, the Norwegian guy, because I once heard that before you got Get Right and you got Gux, that he was wanting to join Fnatic, whether or not this ever had a chance.
Yeah.
Do you look at it now and think it is just because of WCG that you could have lineups where it had a totally different nationality in it and it could work? Or did people maybe miss a trick there in CS? Like, we could have had really great Swedish teams with like Real in them as well, or we could have had Trace into a team instead of him struggling in Danish teams for his whole career. Do you think it would have worked?
I think we proved that it would have worked, and I think you have a valid point that WCG had a part in this because they didn't allow you to have several nationalities into one team. But player picks, pretty much, I would say, all but maybe 1 or 2 player picks we have done in Fnatic has been great ones. So no regrets there. You mentioned that we thought about Real. I think that's probably what happened. He was one of many players we thought about. Because eventually you run out of players. That's the thing as well. It's very harsh to say, but you run out of players. Maybe he is stuck in another team, or you already play with him, or for some reason he has a bad reputation or whatever. So you're starting to look on the other side of the border. But I think you have to be a bit careful with the language there, because in some cases it works. I think it depends a little bit where in that country you come from. If you are from the southern part of Sweden, I think you're kind of fine with a Danish player.
Oh, okay.
Norwegian, Swedes, we are all very fine, we can speak. So it's not a big language barrier there. But I don't know, in Fnatic it just worked out pretty well with Freeze, because we worked hard with it. We like made maps, like this is the box. Everybody knows in both languages how to say 1, 2, 3, 5 guys coming there. And you just name the positions. The game is still the same, team play wise, the decisions you make. In SKM with Trace it didn't work. There was some tough times, I'm not saying in the first weeks, but you get over it, especially like in Scandinavia, we're speaking kind of the same language. But I guess sitting here now we can reveal that we were not close, but we were talking about picking up Neo with Neo. It could have happened.
When was this roughly, do you think? What time?
When it was late. I think this was 2010, late 2010, 11 even. But obviously
Was this after Forreston had left as the replacement players?
No, I think it was actually, we consider him more threat, I think.
Oh, after you were getting rid of threat?
Yeah, I can't recall. Maybe it was several occasions.
Okay.
But it was quite late.
And how close did this come? Was it just?
No, I think maybe he was like, okay, let me sleep on it, let me think about it. Because I think he had in the interview said that he had a dream when he was younger, at least, to play for a foreign team. Yeah. But honestly, I don't think it would worked out that well. It was just like a long shot. And obviously, with all respect for myself, like he stick to the loyal group he has and has done so successfully. So he did a smart choice, and maybe we will never know if we did a smart choice or not. But it would be cool to play with Neo. Imagine having Neo and Forrest in the same team. Goodbye, everyone.
Actually, that's a good hypothetical. Aside from just your team, that I'd like to ask you is.
Sure.
I know that Neo is the best example that people always give of what would have happened if he'd have gone to a non-Polish team, especially as obviously his team had a really difficult time being consistent. They could be really good, but they were never like necessarily at the level that he was at all the time.
Yeah.
So people always wonder if he'd have gone to, say, I know for example EG wanted to pick him up at one time when they had the Americans, so their idea was like he could just speak a bit of English and he's so good, maybe it'll work anyway, you know? Yeah. People will always wonder, was it just that one lineup the Poles had that made them win? Or would Neo have been really good and done great things in another team? Do you think, like, how would it have worked? Like, for example, let's say a German team picks up Neo, or he joins a team from, let's say, Denmark or something. Could it have worked, and could he have still been really successful?
Him and Forrest, yes, but people close to them, I'm thinking like Sonic going to mouz, that didn't work out that well, as far as I remember. And like Sonic is one of the best players in the world, so you have to be careful. I think he would be great, like godlike probably, in other teams, but he will probably be a little bit better, always a little bit better with his friends, speaking the mother tongue and all of that. But yeah, it's of course it's a fun mind experience to do how it would work out. But we have great examples of both ways. I think like Fnatic, I don't know if I talked about that we are great to adapt to the present, how thing is working now, and make the best of what we have. That worked for us. Even like changing to sometimes considerably worse players or going over the nations, picking up Danish players. We made it work because we worked hard. Whereas SK, they maybe fought for granted. Trace, top 3 player in the world, coming in, along with Forrest, along with Getright, Face, Robin. Skill-wise, the best team. If you make like, you know, those hockey cards you have when you're young, you can like see the skill set on some of the players. If you look at that team, there's like 10, 10, 10, 10, 9, 10, 10, 10, 10, 9, 10, 10, 10, 9 on all the players. It didn't work out. So, I don't know, hard work. Even, I think you can integrate a player like Neo, but he will never, my point is, he will never be as good as he is with his friends, his teammates in Poland. I don't think so.
Speaking of another star name, because this is a guy who's linked with you very closely, but there's also a little bit of controversy, so I'm going to talk about Getright. Because he came along late in CS, maybe you could say he didn't play enough years that you can say he's Neo or he's Forrest, because they were just good for like half a decade, you know. It's too much to compare, really, almost. Right. But a lot of people would say like he's one of those players just after them in terms of like a almost irreplaceable type of player. If he leaves your team, then it's very hard to get anyone who can do the same things as he does. What would make you, depending on what you can say about this, what would make you think it's worth not having Getright in a Fnatic team? Because there's a lot of people, when this split happened in the team, and it was basically, as far as I know, it was you guys were thinking about, like, so Forrest, Gux, and Getright were saying, let's get rid of DSN, and then what I've been told is that some people on the other side thought, no, let's only get rid of Getright, and let's replace him with someone. If someone's that good, what could there possibly be? Is it a personality issue? What could possibly make you want to replace them? Because, I mean, can you ever replace a player that good? You see what I'm asking?
Yeah, you said it yourself. It could only be one thing, that's the personality and how things is not working out in that current group. So that would be the only thing. And by all means, Counter-Strike gaming esport is not the only example of this. You see like any kind of athlete out there playing football or any other team game. Sometimes it doesn't just work. Maybe it works for a short period of time, but even if that player is consistently good, maybe internally the team is bleeding. So yeah, it's only about the social aspect here, for the personality that clashed. And I think you were kind of accurate, and the rumors you were heard, it was quite true. It wasn't very specific plans, but we had different ideas what the team needed at that point, how to get out of the slump. But then again, I mentioned before, I think if we worked hard, people just shaped up, became a bit more mature, including myself maybe, being more realistic. We could have made that team work because we were awesome, like Gux, Forrest, Getright, me and Holly. We were a great group of people. But in dire times, you know, people take sometimes radical decisions and say radical things that is kind of, you cannot get back from there basically. A change is going to happen, and it did happen. But yeah, we definitely had different mindset how the constellation of Fnatic should look like. And that was due to the personality, not the skill, by all means, no.
I don't know how much you want to say on this, but when you were saying earlier, you were talking about like the different personalities or the different goals in a team, and so sometimes the problem can be, for example, you said HLTV.org brought out these stats, so now after every game, every player can check, okay, what was my exact ratio, how many kills did I have, was I the top ranked on my team, etc. And you were saying some people maybe look at that too much, or they want to win the MVP award, etc. When you said that, I immediately thought of Getright, because even though I love him, he's a great player. He's a player who's kind of famous for like looking at his stats and wondering if he's going to win the MVP award maybe. Is this kind of what you were intimating there? Was this one of the issues in the later period with Fnatic? Because obviously 2009 everything went great, but then after that maybe there was some issues?
No, as I say, HLTV.org, I mean, it's not really an issue, because I think some people might benefit from watching those stats.
But I mean, was it with Getright? Is this something that...
If he was one of the players, yeah, one of many, and that's not only in Fnatic, many players do that. And maybe some people, that's their fuel. They want to see what people write about and they want to see the score. But as soon as it affects the team and the decisions you take in the team, if you're not accepting a fact that the in-game leader or the majority of the team wants you to drop a pistol to that player or a weapon to that player, of course that's bad news. You know, it's really bad news, and it's hard to control that kind of moment. But yeah, maybe he sticked out a little bit compared to the other players, but I don't know. I don't think that was the major issue. That like, okay, he goes to HLTV, let's kick him from the. Oh, of course not. Great, Getright is and was a great player. We said before, probably one of the best in the world of all time. But maybe he needs to become a bit more mature. He will be. He was very young at that point, and I'm sure he's more mature now. He's still successful in NRP, and I can only wish him the best of luck in the future. Unfortunately, we didn't have the chance to see how long that team could have went, you know, the 2009 lineup, because we weren't. I failed, DSM failed, all of us failed in terms of like sitting with each other and talking about it instead of just maybe making too many jokes, which we were kind of infamous for so many years. But maybe it became too much, and maybe, yeah, I don't know. We didn't have the chance to see how, if we sat down with each other and talk things over, like we could have had another great year together, winning another IEM, winning a WCG. We will never know, but that's the beauty of life as well. But no hard feelings.
Whenever you talk about the fans in history, it's always the brightest lights that stick out the most. So they'll think of fnatic, they immediately think Forest, or they think Get Right, etc. You and DSM were there the whole time, so for all the success you were there, I know that, let me give an analogy, okay, so in football, if we say who are the best players ever, people are probably only going to list strikers and attacking midfielders. It's very rare that even like an amazing, like for example, Oliver Kahn's this amazing goalkeeper, I doubt anyone would even mention him in their top 100, because they're going to have too many strikers they're going to list.
Yeah.
But I happen to know that you're very proud of your accomplishments, so if I said to you, you can include yourself, and you should, if you believe it. So let's name the top 30 players ever, just as a hypothetical exercise. You and DSN would be on this list? Just greatest players ever. DSN and cArn would be on the list?
Achievement-wise, of course. Yeah, achievement-wise, of course. And people along us, kind of same, it's very difficult to say same skill level, but maybe teammates of Neo, they will also be on the list, because they just achieve so much. They win so many gold medals. And isn't that what is important? But yeah, there are different roles in Counter-Strike. Maybe they are more like, they're not that specific as in football, goalkeeper, defender, midfielder, and so forth. But the way you're playing as an in-game leader, or sometimes even sniper, if you're a kind of defensive sniper, you will not end up in those situations where you're going to become the attacker of football, for example. That kind of stardom you get from that. But that's all good, you know. I don't really care that much about that. But I hope that people appreciate people with kind of great achievement lists. But if I don't end up on that top 30 list, whatever. I think if you're one of those persons that makes those cool lists of a lot of old achievements. And I think if you put all the players in the world of Counter-Strike there, and you only go for the performances, the gold medals, and maybe prize money won. If that is important, I don't know. Maybe it tells something at least. I think both me and DSM will be there, along with Forrest, of course, along with Neo, but also his teammates, because they were as big part of the game as well.
Obviously, all accomplishments in a team, they can never be one player, no matter who it is. They need the other players, and he has to do his role. But if we do break it down just individually, I've done some lists. I haven't released them all yet. But when we get to the list where it's like the player who, with all of his teams, won the most money, right? Forrest is top of the list. He's like top by quite a bit. I think he's top by about 60,000. But you're actually number 2 on the list, and you're above, for example, Neo, and you're above, well, basically everyone else in history. So, what do you think if you had to give a description to someone who's like an aspiring esports player? He wants to one day be someone who's won the most money or he's accomplished the most. What did you do in your career with your skills or whatever you're good at or you're bad at that allowed you to become second highest in the prize money for Counter-Strike? Because obviously, if you ask the fans, they would probably guess like a Markelov, Potty, these people, but these people are actually much lower down. So what was your path to doing this?
To have fun. Simple as that. Yeah, that's the main thing. You should not... We're talking about the list about money now. It's not by any means about the money. In esports, you barely get the money anyway. But obviously, in this sense, money is kind of equal to achievements, right? Because you won the gold medals, you won the glory. To give an advice, yeah, that's to have fun and just appreciate your teammates and learn from them and learn from yourself. Be yourself, but the next day you will be a better yourself. That's about it. And have fun, for God's sake. Don't think about anything else.
What's interesting about 2012 Fnatic is you were only in it for the first, I think, 2 events basically. Everyone was wondering, when cArn leaves, will the team just die out completely? Because the key thing was, when you left, there was nobody who was like true blue Fnatic. Like, they were old school, and you always think of this name when you see Fnatic. Right. So if you actually look at the lineups of the last, say, 5 events that Fnatic were at, these are players where 2 years ago they'd have been playing in the 2nd or the 3rd best team in their country. We never even thought of them as ever being in a Fnatic player, like Modi, especially someone like Furta. We never would even think he would be in Fnatic. But this team actually dominated the last period. Right. And even when they had Na'Vi there, the same lineup, they somehow beat them over and over and over. What do you see from the outside in terms of like what they had to replace when you left, or the decisions they made in bringing in the players? Why were they able to dominate the end of CS? Because people would have assumed, maybe the Poles win some more, maybe Na'Vi gets a couple of the end titles, but it was these different Fnatic lineups that won everything.
Good question. Long question, actually, so let me think. I think the players we had after I left, they all had so much motivation. They still have so much more to accomplish. They have so much more fuel, basically. And obviously, they have a lot of skill. I'm very proud that players like Exist, Modi, and you can probably mention Furious here, so they have actually blossomed in Fnatic. Many teams have tried these players before, but I'm not taking anything away from them, but in Fnatic they were allowed to become a star player. And Exist is like, I think he can play for like any team and be successful. He has that mindset. He should be the leader of the team. I hope he is today. I'm not quite sure in NIP, but it felt very natural to walk away at that point. I wasn't obviously in my peak. That was 2007 in my opinion. I felt I didn't really have the time. The past 2 years I had, I know this question was about the team particularly, but I'm just going to make a short story about it. Okay. The past 2 years, 2010 and 2011, I started to work as a part-time manager, which more and more consumed my time. And what happened at the same time was that Counter-Strike became more competitive. We lost a few great players. It became harder for me to perform great Counter-Strike. But I think like 2012, I didn't play that bad at all. But replacing me with those kind of names we just mentioned, they were probably more needed for the team at that point. Creating a very skill-based team, similar to what we talked about Robban, Trace, SK lineup basically when they took in Trace. But we made it work. I tried to assist them as much as I could. If that helped, if that had an impact, I don't know. But whatever we did, in the Fnatic mindset, the Fnatic atmosphere, this team just went on and win everything. But then again, the teams they played against, SK at that point, I think all of them knew that SK will not keep that team for that long. They were probably a bit demotivated about that. They're starting to make like grand plans for the next step, Robban retirement. Na'Vi, they are probably, I'm not quite sure, but I think they're fighting a lot these days compared to what they did in 2010. They are trying to get back into that kind of stability. That will probably never happen. So there was, all in all, it was a great timing for me to step away, to get those hungry players in, great players, much better than me at that point, and still obviously. Get them in, and they had like so much motivation, go to those tournaments and having the support representing Fnatic. I think all of them, and most likely the most players that have played in Fnatic, they have been very proud about playing for Fnatic. And that makes me very happy what we have actually accomplished, a kind of foundation where young upcoming players, they want to be in that team, kind of the Manchester United, I suppose. So they went on and won everything besides K1 now, I think, and obviously DreamHack, CSGO here. Simple as that. We have a great group of people, quite young, still have many more medals to win, and the timing of Counter-Strike 1.6 was perfect for them because Na'Vi, they weren't really trending at that point, I guess you can say, and SK was on, they were going down as well because a lot of things happened in the organization and all of that, as far as I know at least. But back again, I think that team skill-wise, they would have beat any team of Fnatic, any kind of constellation from before. But it makes me a bit proud as well because everything we've done to this very moment led to this, So that's how life goes, and that's how the business goes. Old people leave, new young blood comes in, and the train keeps going, and I hope it goes for a long time in Fnatic.
Okay, so anyone who's got this far through the interview, do you have a message for them, some parting words in terms of the end of cArn as a CS player, because now they're only ever going to see you as the CGO or something like this. So
comeback. No,
but can you put a kind of a cap on things and message for the people who watched?
No, just thanks to all the people. There are many kind people that have supported me over the years and still supporting me. But a lot of stories about myself, about my career, but it's very, very important to highlight the people that has made everything possible for me. We can start out very early, obviously, with my family that allow me to spend ridiculous amount of hours playing computer games. My friends early on were my teammates. They kind of accepted that I had grand plans for Counter-Strike, starting to climb the ladder. And then it comes to the teammates and those people, my friends that I've been traveling with, sharing a life on the road with for so many years, made me a better player and a person, and just enabled me to have the time of my life, because it has obviously been that. It gets almost a bit emotional to talk about it, but yeah, it's all about my teammates. We are 5 players in the team, so everybody accounts for 20%. We win, we lose together, that's it. And yeah, I'm here because of them. And the players that are playing for fnatic right now are really good guys. I hope the best success in the future for them. We're gonna work hard in fnatic now when I have a management position to make sure the FPS, even that I'm a bit, I would say, insecure about the future of Counter-Strike, I think it should still have a position in esport. We just have to figure out how, when, I guess, as well, because I think the moment is not great right now with Riot, League of Legends. It's hard to compete with StarCraft 2, with Blizzard. Yeah, we need unity, but I think, I'm not sure, like watching the streaming numbers, I think you agree as well. It doesn't really seem that CSGO will be the game that's gonna lead team-based FPS into like the prime position in esport right now. I'm a bit sad about that, but I think if we work hard and we just keep on doing what we like to do, play those games we like to do, and appreciate that other players, other teams may like another game. That's my message to the community, basically. That don't just sit and fight that other people like another game and support another game. Like, come on, it's a bit like, hey, I'm a Manchester United fan, why are you an Arsenal fan? It's a bit like that. You shouldn't be like that. Any final words? Go out, have some fun, kids. Thanks to fnatic as well, of course, Sam and all the management that somehow took decisions that allowed me to come back from retirement in 2005. We became the team of the year 2006, 2009. In total, I think you know this better than me, but we probably won like decent prize money for the organization, a lot of fame, 65 top 3 placement internationally. Probably the most consistent team in the history of Counter-Strike. Good times.
Tack så mycket.
Tack själv.